Now, George Bush is a terrible, terrible president, right? And he would have been a terrible president under any circumstance because he doesn't care to do the job. But if he didn't have Dick Cheney and Don Rumsfeld leading his administration for 6 years, he wouldn't have been nearly as terrible. Because it was the perfect storm. You had an idiot president who didn't care to do the job, and an evil vice president, and an incompetent Secretary of Defense who got together and just bungled it beyond imagination. But the administration has gotten much better. It has, believe it or not. And I know you have a hard time believing that. Since Rumsfeld left and Gates came in as Secretary of Defense, we knocked out one of the legs of the perfect storm of incompetence, evil, and stupidity. Okay? We knocked out the incompetent leg of Rumsfeld. And Cheney's been kind of reeling from that ever since. He's trying to gain his footing and start more wars, but he's having trouble. And Time magazine points out that the Israeli-Palestinian summit is yet another example of George Bush listening to others in the administration, Gates, Rice, etc., as opposed to Cheney. Because why? I know you're going to be shocked by this. Cheney was opposed to the peace summit. Of course, it has the word peace in it. Why would he be in favor of it? In fact, Cheney believes, this is Time magazine reporting, I'm not making this up, and I've seen this in other places, but Time nailed it in this case. Cheney believes that this is not the right time for peace. I don't know why I set that up like it'd be something hard to believe, right? But not just overall, but specifically in Israel. He thinks, no, we haven't crushed the Palestinians enough. We haven't ground up their bones into a fine dust and drank it. So let's crush them a little more, and then we'll talk about peace. But he thinks it would be disadvantageous right now to Israel to go forward with this peace summit when they could have a better deal later. So he actively lobbied against the summit. But, lo and behold, he lost. Oh, well, you look at that. And Time magazine sets it up as really a campaign, a conflict between the Cheney side and the George H.W. Bush side. And which side is W going to go to? Of course, in our experience, the more he goes to Cheney's side, the worse off the country gets and the world gets. The more he goes off to the HW side, the better things get. They're not rosy when he goes to that side, but they're better. And every time I read one of these stories, I feel vindicated. What did I tell you, man? George H.W. Bush, not bad in foreign policy. And 1,000, 1 billion times better than Cheney, and diametrically opposed to Cheney. They're more opposed to each other, George H.W. Bush people and the Cheney people, than the Republicans and the Democrats are, by a mile. Because you know how many times the Democrats go along with the Republicans so they can seem tough on national security, right? Well, the George H.W. Bush people, they don't go along with Cheney because they know he's wrong and they know he's out of control. And who's the top George H.W. Bush guy inside the George W. Bush administration? Gates, my new man crush. And here's a clever trick that Gates used. He says, look, Mr. President, you've done a great job of setting them up because you've pretended to be like a madman who might attack anybody, right? And you scared them. Good job, Mr. President. But now that you've got them scared, this is the time to bring them to the negotiating table and get a good deal. Because now that they're scared of you, they'll give you a good deal. Like, look at what happened with North Korea. They were scared that you might invade, and we got a great deal out of it. And that's worked. Bush is like, yeah, I was good with that, wasn't I? I scared him. Yeah. And we got a good deal? Yeah, all right. I like this Gates guy. He's stroking my ego pretty well. And what he's saying seems to make sense, and it's almost working. Whereas the stuff Cheney did never worked. Yeah. Look, hey, you got to know your audience. In this case, your audience is nearly retarded. Okay, you got a mentally handicapped guy you're trying to appeal to. You know, you're going to put up big pictures, draw in crayons, and mainly, most importantly, stroke his ego. Mr. President, let me tell you how you're a genius. Because that's the thing. He's so insecure about how stupid he is that's why you have to constantly appeal to how smart he is. Oh, Mr. President, let me tell you how smart you are. Man, this thing you did with, being tough and being strong, and he loves to be strong, because obviously inside he must be wildly insecure about what a wuss he is. So, and you did a great job, and you presented strength. Now let's take advantage of that. Let's bring the diplomacy home. And it's working. And God bless, man. I'm telling you, Gates is turning that thing around.